Hey guys, welcome to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be cutting and sewing this cutout palazzo jumpsuit that you can see on your screen. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. The first thing I'll do is to take my points, and the first point is distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The last point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist, which is 16.5 inches. After doing that, I'll go ahead and rule straight lines across all these points, and I'll label the lines. First line bust line, second line under bust line, while the third line is the waistline. The next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. On that 8 inches dot, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. For the neck width, I'll be using 3 inches. And for the neck depth, I'll be using 3 inches. This is not the actual neck measurement. We are just going to be using this as a guide. So after doing that, I'll connect using the curved part of my ruler, and I'll slant from there into the shoulder slope. On the shoulder slope, I'll go down by my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate that with a dot. On that dot, I'm going to place the same measurement that I have on the shoulder line, which is 8 inches. I'll make sure it is 8 inches. After doing that, I'll connect from the shoulder slope straight down to the 8 inches point, and I'll rule a straight line across that point. So this is going to be the chest line. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on the straight line to find the middle point. The straight line is 8 inches, half of 8 inches is 4 inches, so I indicated the 4 inches. On that 4 inches dot, I'll go in by half an inch, and I'll also indicate the half an inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the shoulder slope to the half an inch. On my chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'll use my curved ruler to connect from the half an inch to the dot that I have on the chest line like this. The next thing I'll do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll take that on all the 3 lines, and I'll connect the dots into a straight line. Next thing I'll do now is to take the dart. So on the center front, I'll be taking half an inch on the under bust line and on the waistline, while on the side front I'll be taking 1.25 inches. So you can do 1.5 inches, you can do 2 inches, depending on how busty you are. So I'm going to take that on the chest line, on the under bust line and on the waistline, and I'll connect into a straight line like this. Next thing I'll do is to use my curve ruler to connect from the shoulder area all the way to the under bust. So if you don't have a curve rule, you can use your free hand to just create like a C, as you can see me doing. So there is no rule to this. You can use your pencil to just outline it. If you like what you have, then you use your marker to make it visible, which is what I am doing now. You can see that my curve rule is quite short, so I'm going to just connect it like this. So once I get what I want, I'm going to use my marker to just outline it out. So next thing I'll do is to place my measurements on the chest line. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. What I'll do is to add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart and I'll add my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll also replace the dart and I'll add my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect straight down from the bust line to the dots on the under bust line, and from there to the waistline. So the next thing I'll do is to add half an inch allowance on the base. This is my joining allowance, and I'll just connect like this. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and extend the dart to meet the allowance, and then I'll cut. So after cutting, I went ahead to split the dart and remove the dart, and this is what we'll be using. So you can see that the center became smaller, and the curve that we had earlier is no longer there. If the dart is there, you can see how curvy it looks, but after taking out the dart, the curve is no longer there. So we are going to fix that. What I'll do is to place the 2 pattern paper, like this. Make sure they don't overlap each other, and I'll use my masking tape to hold it down. So the one that is longer, which is the side front, I'm going to place my roller as you can see me doing, and I'll create like a C So we are replacing what we took out to have that shape that we need. So I'll connect it like this. I'm not cutting from the shorter one, I'm cutting from the longer one, and I'm giving it the C shape that we had earlier. So I'm going to cut it out like this, so you can see that we now have that curvy shape that we had earlier. So I'll use my masking tape to hold it down. This is because I want to cut it as one piece. I don't want it to be two. Okay, since we've already closed our darts, there's no need to cut it out as a two piece. I'm going to cut out just one piece. So I'll use my masking tape to hold it down, and I'm going to keep this aside and we'll work on the back. So the back is going to have a zipper. What I'll do is to take 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance, and I'll connect the dot into a straight line like this. Next thing is to take the point, bust point 10 inches, under bust point 13 inches, waist point 16.5 inches. After doing that, I'm going to rule straight lines across all the points, and I'll label my lines: the bust line, the under bust line, and the waistline. After doing that, I'll take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate that with a dot. On that 8 inches, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. For the neck width, just like we did for the front, I'll take 3 inches. And for the neck depth, I'll go down by 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'll connect from the neck depth to the neck width like this, and then I'll slant from that point to the 1 inch shoulder slope that we took like this. After doing that, I'll go down by my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'll make sure I have the same 8 inches that I have on the shoulder line on that dot, and I'll indicate that also. After doing that, I'll connect from the shoulder slope to meet the 8 inches, and I'll rule a straight line across that point. So this is going to be the chest line. On the chest line now, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4, and then I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect from that point, okay, that we have on the chest line to the center of this straight line like this. So the next thing I'll do now is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll take the 4 inches on all the lines, and I'll connect the dots into a straight line. So after doing that, now I'll take 0.75 inches on both sides of the straight line. You can do 1 inch on both sides, okay, but I'm doing just 0.75 inches. On the bust line, I'll go down by 1 inch. After doing that, I'll connect from there, from the waistline to meet the 1 inch that I went down with. Now I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this tiny dart there, and I'll add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the 1.5 inches dart intake allowance, and I'll place my 1.5 inches for my joining allowance. After doing that, I'll connect on the side, and then I'm going to connect this armhole area because I want the armhole area to be a little bit deep. So I'll place my curved drill and I'll bring it inward. So we'll not be using the old one. I just brought it inward a bit to give it that depth on the armhole area. I just connected it like this, and I'm going to outline the part that will be cutting out. Then I'll add the half an inch allowance on the base, just like I did for the front. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. So after cutting, we're going to open up the dart allowance, okay, just that part that we have the dart. I'm just going to cut it out. So that is how I'm also going to cut it on the fabric, so it's easy for me to join. So that is all for the drafting of the upper bodice. So for the pants, my fabric is folded into 2, and we'll be cutting out the front first. So the first thing I'll do is to take my point. So the start of my fabric is going to be the waist, while the distance from my waist to my hip is 9 inches. So I'll mark the 9 inches, and I'll go ahead and rule a straight line across. So I'll label this the hip, while the upper part is the waist. The next point is the crotch depth. So there are different ways to get your crotch depth. The video showing on the screen is how I normally get my own crotch depth. I'll pass my tape through my legs like this, and I'll take it all the way So whatever I have, I'll divide it into two. So usually if I'm sewing like a straight pants, I usually have about 27 inches, then I'll divide it by two. So whatever measurement you get, you divide it by two. But since this is a jumpsuit, I want it to be free on the crotch area. So what I did was to take 15 inches for my crotch depth. I don't want it tighten me in any way. So after going down by 15 inches, I went ahead to rule a straight line across and I labeled it the crotch. For my pants length, it is 42 inches, but what I have here is 44 inches. I'll be using the 2 inches to fold the pants on the base. Okay, so after doing that, I'll place my tape on one end and I'll go in by my hip circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch. So the hip circumference I'm working with is 9 inches. That's divided by 4, it is 9 inches. I went ahead to add extra 1 inch to it, making it 10 inches. The extra 1 inch I added is for ease. Okay, so on that point, I'm going to place the tape backward to take my waist circumference divided by 4. Since the jumpsuit is going to be fitted on the waist area, I added extra 1 inch for that and extra 1 inch for joining allowance. Okay, so after indicating that, I'm going to connect from that point to the hip and I'm going to give it a little bit of curve so the hip area is not just straight. Okay, so after doing that, to get my crotch extension, I'll place my tape on the crotch line. What I have is 10 inches. I'm going to divide it by 4. After dividing it, what it gave me was 2.5 inches. I'll approximate it and make it 3 inches. Okay, so I'll go out from that line by 3 inches and then I'm going to connect from the hip in a slant to meet the 3 inches. So we've gotten the crotch extension line. So you're going to figure out how big you want your pant to be. So what I have on the crotch line is 13 inches. So I decided to just place the 13 inches all the way to the end of the pant. So if you want it to become smaller towards the end of the trouser, you can go in more and just give it a little bit of curve. So next thing I'll do is to take the dart. So I'll place my tape on the crotch area and I'll go in by 4 inches, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. After doing that, I'll figure out the length of the dart. I want it to be 4 inches, so I went down by 4 inches. On this straight line on both sides, I took half inch. Remember, I added just 1 inch for the dart. Okay, so half an inch to the left, half an inch to the right, and I connected like this. So what I'm doing now is marking 1 inch for the joining allowance of this crotch area. I don't want to eat into the fabric, so I marked 1 inch, which I'll be using to join the crotch area. After doing that, I went ahead to cut, and on the side I went ahead to give it a little bit of curve, and then I opened it up all the way to the end. So I'll be using this to cut out the back. So the fabric for the back should be wider and longer than that of the front. So it is 1.5 inches longer than that of the front, and it is wider than that of the front because we'll be extending the crotch area. So for the length, you can make it about 2 inches or 2.5 inches longer to be on a safer side. So I'll arrange the front on the back as you can see me doing, making sure that I have allowance on the waist area and allowance on the crotch area. First thing I'll do is to extend the crotch all the way out like this to make sure it is sitting together. After doing that, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches as you can see me doing on the crotch area. Next thing is to extend the crotch. So I used 3 inches for the front. I'm going to use the same 3 inches for the back. If you used 2 inches for the front, make sure you use 2 inches for the back. So for the extension at the back, I'll be using 2.5 inches because I want my zipper allowance to be 1.5 inches. So from the front, I'm going out by 2.5 inches. Okay, as you can see me doing, then I'll connect it to the crotch extension at the back. Okay, so after connecting, this is what I have. Next thing I'll do is to still mark the 2.5 inches that I have on the crotch area all the way to the base of the pant. So I'm making it 2.5 inches wider. But if you don't want yours to be wider, you can just go in, just curve it a little bit in. Okay, so after doing that, now what I'll do now is to mark the original waistline which I have on the front, which is 10 inches. I'm going to mark the same thing, but from the extension, the 2.5 inches extension at the back. You can see the way I placed my tape. Place it in a slant and mark the same waist measurement that they have on the front, mark it at the back. So now I'm going to place my ruler and I'll connect it in a slant. Now from the extension that we have on the crotch area and from the extension that we added to the waist at the upper part. Okay, so if you don't understand what I'm saying, just follow what I am doing. Okay, so this hip line, I'm going to extend this out on the back fabric, and I'm going to remove the front fabric, as you can see. So what I'll do is to use the curved part of my ruler to connect now from this waistline to the hip line. So I'm doing this so that the waist of the front and the back will sit together when I'm joining. If you feel like it's too curvy, you can use your straight ruler to just straighten it up a bit, but this is perfect. Okay, so on the side from this point now, I'm going to just connect it exactly how the front is. Okay, that is how we are going to cut out the side. We'll not be adding any other allowance to the side. So after doing this now, next thing I'm going to do now is to remove the front. We are done using the front, and I'll be taking the dart for the back. So remember I said my zipper allowance will be 1.5 inches, so I'll go in by 1.5 inches. From that 1.5 inches, I'm going to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches, and then I'll go down by 4 inches, which is the dart length. Then I'll take half an inch on both sides and I'll connect like this. So yeah, after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut, and that is all for the pattern drafting of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. See you in the next one.